Hi, this is King of Review. So here we're asked to figure out which of these four reflections is true about the graphs of y equals 3 to the x and y equals log base 3 of x. There's two ways to think about this. First, we could just think about it visually, since we're asked a visual question. Which one is a reflection? Well, the graph of y equals 3 to the x is an exponential growth function. The fact that the base 3 is greater than 1 makes it growth, and since 3 is positive, it will grow something like this. It's not a perfect graph, but something along those lines. It starts off small, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The log base 3 of x on the other hand starts out very, very negative, comes up, and then starts to flatten out as it goes. Something along those lines. So this first graph would be y equals 3 to the x, and the second graph would be y equals log base 3 of x. Now we can very quickly rule out several of these reflections. These two graphs are clearly not a reflection over the x-axis, meaning if the x-axis were a mirror, these two graphs are not mirror images of each other. In fact, the mirror image of y equals 3 to the x would be something like this. That would be a mirror image of y equals 3 to the x over the x-axis. And clearly that's not the log graph. So B is clearly out. The same can be said for a reflection over the y-axis. If we take the log base 3 of x and we try to reflect it over the y-axis, we would get something like this, a mirror image. And that's clearly not the graph of y equals 3 to the x, so C is out. A reflection over the origin means that point there. And we don't usually talk about reflections over single points. We normally talk about reflections over lines, like the x-axis or the y-axis. So let's now look at the final possibility, y equals x. Y equals x is the line that does go through the origin, and it's a perfect diagonal line at a 45-degree angle. And you can kind of see that these two lines, if you flip it over this dotted line as a mirror, if you treat y equals x as a mirror, that these two lines are mirror images of each other over that line. So the answer visually is definitely A. And the easier way to think about that is to think about these two functions. Exponential functions like y equals a to the x, and exponential functions like y equals the log base a of x are inverses of each other. They do exactly opposite things. They would cancel each other out. And inverses, as a rule, are always reflections over the line we just saw, y equals x. Every two inverse functions are always reflections over that line. So by that logic as well, these two graphs must be reflections over the line y equals x, since they're inverses. So there's our answer. Thanks for watching.